In the run-up to the polls, Turks have had much to complain about, from the state's slow response to the earthquakes to an economy that's completely in ruins.
I'd say those responsible are the ones governing us. They are making all the decisions about the economy and the country. I think they have made a wrong decision. I used to be an AKP supporter, but I'm not thinking of voting for them anymore.
This is Hakim Ikinci, a barber who lives in Istanbul. He blames Erdogan's economic policies for the country's skyrocketing inflation. The economy is a key issue heading into the elections. But why is Turkiye's economy in such a mess? In late 2021, unorthodox interest rate cuts sought by Erdogan sparked a devaluation of the Turkish lira. It sent inflation to a 24-year peak of 85.5%. Ahead of the elections in April this year, annual inflation slowed to 43.68%. But experts believe Erdogan risks losing, largely due to the cost of living crisis.
We are poor people, of course. I would like the price of whatever goes into the kitchen to decrease. It's a good thing for us. We cannot buy meat. If we buy vegetables today, we can't afford them the next day.
Annual inflation has remained in double digits for nearly all of 5 years since the 2018 general elections. The president is campaigning on a pledge of lowered interest rates. He has also promised to boost economic growth. In fact, the country ushered in the new year with significant pay hikes for minimum wage earners, pensioners and civil servants. But is it enough?
The government gives a 30% increase in the salary we receive, but the inflation is 150 to 200%. We are feeling oppressed. We have the right to live, we gave our years and paid our taxes, but we have not had a moment of peace and comfort.
Apart from hyperinflation, an economic downturn, a spiraling cost of living crisis, and the earthquake's staggering reconstruction bill, Turkey is also going through a colossal housing crisis. According to data from Turkey's central bank, property prices in February recorded an annual increase of 141.5%. The earthquakes have also compounded the issue as survivors seek shelter. What has Erdogan's AK party done to improve the situation?
Mentioned inflation, the economy is in, the Lira is way down in terms of its purchasing power, speaking of friends in Turkey. I mean, in terms of, it's quite disastrous and needs to be fixed, number one. Number two, if you're talking about the common people, then we can talk about the earthquake. And again, I cannot underestimate the importance of that. You have many deaths, homelessness. You also have people displaced. But I think the biggest challenge for Turkey now is on its economy. And after the earthquake, that has now been a shell shock to Turkey.
The upcoming vote is the president's toughest test in 20 years. 69-year-old Erdogan hopes to extend his rule into a third decade. He's reshaped his country more than any leader since Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the revered father of the modern republic. Erdogan is Turkey's longest-serving leader. A political giant, he's held many key roles in the country's politics. The May 14 elections will put in place a new parliament and a new president. Six opposition parties have combined forces for these elections, picking opposition leader Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, a former civil servant, as their unity candidate. And while 4 candidates are running for the post of the president, Erdogan's main rival in the race is Kılıçdaroğlu. But what is the election process like for appointing the most powerful person in the country? Turkiye holds its presidential elections every 5 years. The presidential election happens in 2 rounds. The candidate who receives over 50% of votes in the first round is elected president. But in case there is no clear winner, the election enters a second round between the 2 most voted candidates from the first round. Since people directly vote for their president, he or she cannot be removed from office before the end of their term. Turkiye will be voting on the 14th of May, and the results are expected to be announced later on the same day. The second presidential ballot, if it takes place, will be held on the 28th of May. The elections are already being touted as the toughest ever for Erdogan.